So, G2, they've been in the news quite a bit recently. Why? Well, Muny had left G2 for about all of a day before he was saying the management didn't do a great job. The management didn't support Hooksy. Hooksy is the best. And it's great to be on Falcons. I love Nico. Oh, by the way, Taz is basically a glorified cheerleader. So, great. Love that. Then their CEO went and did, I'm going to say, a pretty bad interview with HLTV Confirmed, where he inadvertently confirmed a lot of the things that had been said and also said some pretty silly things for a CEO to say. We'll break that down later on this stream. But now they brought in a stand-in AWPer. You'll remember from talking about the Muny deal. So I'll just remind you. Because Falcons, they absolutely long-dicked G2. They played them like a fucking fiddle, right? What they did was they said, we'll buy Muny now, and you will sell him now, so we get him for the major. And if you don't do that, we'll just wait out his contract and have him for free at the end of the year. And G2 caved and agreed to sell Muny. An interesting part of the Muny deal that no one talks about. No, I haven't seen anyone talking about this. I obviously know this. I was at the event where the deal was negotiated and talked to people as it was being negotiated in real time. It was always my understanding that in the deal, when Na'Vi sold Muny to G2 for $600,000 or whatever it was, they had in the contract a right of first refusal that if Muny was sold, then Na'Vi had to have the option to buy him back. That's what everyone was saying, but I don't know. I'm guessing Na'Vi didn't want him back for whatever reason. I'll let you determine why that might be. But that's something I haven't seen anyone mention out there in the journalist and leaker space, which seems strange detail to omit. But anyway, they got long-dicked. They said, okay, Mr. Falcons, sir, please, can we has big piles of money? And Falcon said, yeah. And they get Muny, and they get to take Muny to the major. And, see you, Dexter. Doesn't matter how many nice things you post. You're just not going to be on a team for the major because we just don't respect even people doing a good job on Falcons. Everyone's on the chopping block. That's the nature of being at such a mercenary enterprise. And so G2 had to scramble, and not beating the Polish house party allegations, they brought in Hades, who hasn't played for a while. He was hasn't played at Tier 1, I should stipulate, for a while. He was playing with Monty. They brought him in, and that's going to be their team at the major. Hades, Heavy God, Malbs, Hunter, Snacks. So, not great, but needs must as the devil drives, and evidently they couldn't get a better AWPer option than that. So, okay, that's what they're going to be doing. Then it came through today that they are now in talks with Sun Pius, remember, formerly of Falcons, another player cut, deemed surplus to requirements, despite being the highest rated player on that roster at that time, and Saw, the legendary coach. Obviously, this is another insane deal for Heroic. I just think there cannot be an organization that has made more money from player and coach sales in the last 2.5 years than Heroic. They've just sold so much talent. It's actually crazy. And if you remember, I think 3 years ago, they were on the brink of bankruptcy. So, nice one. This is how you have to do it. Moneyball. But this is in Sheep Esports. Sheep Esports, who proudly boast of their 80... Well, one of their journalists does. Proudly boasts about his 80% accuracy record. Great stuff there. But this is Anonymotum, and he's generally good. Close to 100. And so this is the report. Says G2 Esports ongoing CS2 roster restructuring continues to take shape. Following the departure of its star player Muny at Team Falcons, the organization brought in Hades on a temporary loan basis. And according to Sheep's Esports sources, Hades is expected to remain with the team through the Austin Major, after which he will be replaced by some Pius, who has reportedly reached a verbal agreement with the club. This is a very Sheep. Doesn't matter how many times I try and school these kids. I cannot reach these kids. Why can I not reach your kids? You have to describe who the sources are and explain why you are giving them anonymity. And they've done the classic, it's a verbal agreement, i.e., we're not confident in our sources enough to say it's definitely happening, so we give ourselves the verbal agreement get out clause. Oh, they verbally agreed, but they didn't sign anything. It's the most Sheep esports report of all time. Come on, guys. It's 2025. Let's raise our editorial standards. Let's do good work, please. Anyway. Pet peeves. The Spanish Orpa had recently played under the Falcons banner before leaving the Saudi organisation in January to join Heroic. The deal is pending Valve and Blast confirmation. Obviously, all of these things have to be approved because it's a major tournament and what have you. Some Pius, however, will not be making the move alone. Still, per sources, Heroic's current head coach, Saw, has also reached a verbal agreement with the German organisation to join the team following the major. The two have a well-established rapport, having previously worked together before their stint with Heroic. Most notably, during their time with ENTS, they secured the only S-tier title of their respective careers at IEM Dallas 2023. That successful run also saw them reach the grand finals of IEM Cologne and Gamers 8, as well as the semi-finals of the ESL Pro League Season 18. It talks a little bit here about how they've been doing in Heroic. Obviously, not great right now. And what a Hades debut might look like, a.k.a. padding. But let's do what we do. Let's break down the deals. Sun Pius? I don't know, dude. It's not a name that's going to blow anyone away. Put it that way. It's not going to excite G2 fans, I don't think. First, he's still only 26. And the level of opposition he's been playing against makes it very hard to gauge where he's at right now. When he was on Falcons, I'll bring up his stats for you. They did occasionally play and lose to top teams. Very often, Sun Pius played well in those games. But then, obviously, when he's moved to Heroic, he's playing against a very different caliber of team. You can see, look, we're playing against Paravision, we're playing against Zero Tenacity, although I might add, playing against Zero Tenacity, particularly online, that might be a harder game than some of the LAN games he's had. We remember, of course, in February, this one, the destruction of Astralis 13-2. That was an absolute banger. Kept that one very close in my memory. But, you're playing Guns, Namiga, Nine Pandas, 9-9, OG, Bait, Wildcard, Partisan, Bet Boom. It's obviously as well, they just competed and won the trophy in Mongolia, the Mena Misa Masters, or whatever it was called. Yeah, the Misa Nomadic Masters Spring. Sorry, I started talking like Jar Jar Binks there for a second. But anyway, and Sun Pius was really good in most of that series. So what can we say about him? What can we say about him? He can beat the tier 2 people. He can dominate the tier 2 people. That's what we can say about his statistical performances. What else can we say? Does this mean he's ready to be a starting AWPer for G2? I don't know. I'll just say he's had a bit of a cursed career. Another player that's had their entire career essentially disrupted just by the existence of Falcons. Why would you blame Falcons, Richard? Oh, come on. Surely you know. You just hate everything Saudi, don't you, Richard? That's what it is. No, look what happened. You just heard there. ENTS had finally started winning trophies. They got Dallas in 23. They were having these deep runs. They were a top 10 team. And then their core got bought by Falcons because Falcons didn't want to build build a team and work to get invites for events. They wanted to just go straight into the invites for the events. So they bought the Ents core and then did nothing with the Ents core. In fact, took the Ents core backwards. And so backwards that they ended up cutting Sun Pius and putting him on the bench, despite him being the statistically strongest player. And there he lay and languished until Heroic picked him up. But Heroic didn't pick him up in a good iteration of Heroic. They picked him up in an iteration of Heroic that isn't really a top team anymore because they sold their core to who? Fucking Falcons. So his entire career has just been a fucking train wreck for 2 years just because of the existence of one organization. So on the basis of Sun Pius joining, I mean, it's better than keeping Hades. Yeah. But I really don't know how good he's going to be in Tier 1 again. And I don't think the G2 fans are going to feel good about him as a signing. And the G2 fans aren't going to feel good about anything until Snacks goes. Anyway, so then we go back to the second part of the deal. And it's this. Saw. Do you want to play a game? They're getting Saw. And that means no Taz. One would assume this is the end of Taz. Now, I feel bad for Taz. We did an interview when he was doing the G2 job, and I was talking about how cool it was that we had Taz as a coach at G2 and Neo as a coach at FaZe. By the way, you will notice, of course, Taz and Snacks blamed for all of the failures of G2, but Neo and Carrigan not blamed for any of the failures in FaZe. Flirting versus harassment. But whatever. And during that, I said to Taz, it's probably a bit too big of a job to start with. And he said, yeah, I know. But it's an opportunity like this, you have to take it. And unfortunately, all of the players he's worked with have fucked him over to some degree. Like Stewie coming in as a stand-in and then going on a stream and being, Taz was just stood there and not doing anything. Like, oh, Stewie, come on, man. They did you a favour, right? And then, obviously, Taz gets blamed for bringing in Snack. Taz gets blamed when they don't win. Everyone was going, but Hooksy didn't want to work with Taz. It should in no way be the IGL's decision who the coach is. But now we have to pretend it should be because everyone hates Taz. And it's like, will Taz get another coaching opportunity again? I don't really know. And I think that's sad. I think that sucks. So I do feel sorry for Taz. I think if he was working with a better IGL, I don't think any of this would be happening to him. Now, all of that said, if I'm running an organization, and I'm sorry to say this, Victor, if I'm running an organization and I have the chance and it's, do you want Taz as the coach or do you want Saw as the coach? I am obviously going to go with Saw. And why am I going to go with Saw? I'm going to go with Saw because he has a proven track record of scouting players that go on to be Tier 1. A proven track record of putting together lineups of disparate players from different nationalities, international lineups that everyone raves about when they work. And he's done that multiple times and had success with it. This is a guy who's min-maxed, discovered talent that then goes on to make your org money when you sell them to bigger organizations. And don't worry, he's got another one or two up his sleeve. He's the exact type of coach, like an Ash-type character at Gamer Legion, that you want if you're in an organization in the middle of the pack, if you're not one of the big boys, if you're not taking the Saudi money. And Saw is a great signing for G2. But it also is quite instructive of where G2 think they are as an organization. You see, they now recognize maybe we don't get all the best players, the biggest players, and hold on to the best talent all of the time. Maybe we need a coach that can discover players for us that we can buy cheap and sell big if we need to. That's a very interesting change in G2's policy. Back in the Carlos days, G2 just spent money. We'll go and get this player. We will always sign the championship lineup. We will try and win trophies every single year. Bringing in Saw, you're not saying we don't want to win trophies. You're saying the way in which we're going to win trophies is going to have to be different. And so it feels like a tacit acknowledgement that they're not the powerhouse organization they once were in a land where Falcons are going to start to dominate and obviously Vitality need to be knocked off their throne. But the Saw signing, this is 2 thumbs up. This is mega. This is really good. I agree. This is what you need to do now, G2. You've proven you can't retain your talent. You've lost Nico, then you lost Muny. You couldn't convince him to stay. You're probably going to lose Hunter. You're going to replace Snacks. That's not a bad thing. You are going to have to do a Ronnie rebuild. Sun Pius being there will help Saw feel attached. Saw can obviously work with Sun Pius and help bring the best out of him. I don't know what Malbs and Heavy got are thinking. The team they joined doesn't exist anymore. The challenge they set themselves doesn't exist anymore. They've got to completely reset their approach to their work now. But that's sports. That's life. But I got questions about Sun Pius. Better than Hades. But other than that, I wouldn't want to make any predictions about how that's going to go. But Saw, that's going to move them forward. And that's what they need to do. I mean, it's crazy to think about where G2 is relatively now to all the other teams, how far they've let themselves slip. If you look at the rankings, they claim to be number 8. But are they? Are they the 8th best team in the world right now? Are there teams below them that I feel could beat them? Maybe not. It's not a solid 8, put it that way. And that's worrying. That's worrying for G2. As it affects Heroic, not that that's the more interesting part of the topic, but as it affects Heroic, losing the guy that's been responsible for their continual rebuilds must be frightening. If you're a Heroic fan, it's a pretty lousy day. They would have to spend some of the money they've brought assuming they have access to it. But look, I'll say this. They do have the opportunity to do the funniest fucking thing of all time. And that is Heroic. If they've got millions to spend, they could buy Astralis and have the last laugh, which would be great. I mean, listen, that would be the cinema. That was what they, after everything Astralis did, for Heroic to turn around and buy them would just be fucking unreal. And then immediately let everybody go, but probably keep the team. But they're going to have to spend. I mean, their lineup right now is not brilliant. Losing Sun Pius is a blow. This Tanir seems to be good. Another one of the good players that they discovered. But yeah, going to be very, very hard without Saw for them. So we'll see. I will judge them. I mean, shit, man, they won a trophy, Not the biggest trophy, but it's a trophy. They won the CCT Global Finals. They're kind of that gatekeeper tier 2 team right now. I fuck with it. So I'll judge them. I'll judge them on the next outing when they play big teams. But yeah, we'll see. Very tough times ahead, I think, for Heroic. Really hard. Yeah, they got that weird situation as well, haven't they? Where they got that Nilo, the player they immediately bought and benched for personal reasons or something the same day. Hasn't played in, I know, it's been months. So I don't know. Maybe they can do something. Anyway, that's not the real point. The real point, G2, they're an evolving G2. They're a changing G2. It's going to be a good thing that they have Saw there, but everyone now, if you're a G2 fan, I know you're not the brightest bulb. You have to lower those expectations, homie. You gotta get those expectations all the way down, because after the major, the second half of the year is essentially going to be you rebuilding with players that aren't G2 blockbuster signings. You're going to have to just get used to that as your future and hope that Saw can take those parts and make a much more successful whole. But we shall see. That is the joy of roster moves.